Good evening. Please join in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I didn't see that until This meeting is held in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. The news media has been notified, and a copy of the agenda has been made available to the public. This meeting is open to the public. All persons wishing to attend the meeting by virtual means may do so via YouTube Sumter School District Board Meeting and Sumter School District Facebook page. Vision. Sumter School District is committed to educating, empowering, and enriching the lives of all students to reach their full potential. Mission. Sumter School District is committed to providing a safe, nurturing, and high-quality educational environment that supports diversity and equips students for local and global success. Our board members are yours truly, Barbara Jackson, Area 7 Chairwoman, Dr. J. Frank Baker, Area 8 Vice Chair, Dr. Darrell McGaney, Area 5, our Clerk, Mr. Brian Alston, Area 1, Mrs. Cheryl Ray, Area 2, Mr. Matthew McLeod, Area 3, Dr. Gloria Lee, Area 6, Dr. Sean Reagan, Seat 9, Ms. Denise Jones, our Shore Air Force Base representative, Dr. William Wright, our superintendent, and Ms. Shantae Scott, our administrative manager. Dr. Hilton, please forgive me.
How you doing tonight?
Area 4. Thank you for being here, Dr. Hilton.
Yes, ma'am, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
I am sorry about that. Good evening. This meeting is now called to order. Welcome to Shore Heights Elementary School. I want to thank our principal, Dr. Melissa Morris, and her staff for hosting this meeting. Thank you, Dr. Morris. Before we approve the agenda this evening, I would like to just share that in light of communication from our attorney, Mr. Duff, he received some communication this weekend from our plaintiff's attorney. He has asked that we amend the agenda during the executive session to add a discussion item in executive session. And it would be receipt of legal advice regarding the pending claim of Sumter concerned clergy versus Sumter School District. As a reminder, board members, Board Policy BEDB concerning amending the agenda at the meeting requires a 2/3 vote of the members present to amend the agenda during a meeting to add a discussion item. May I have a motion and a second to amend tonight's executive session agenda?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Alston.
I move that the board amend the agenda for this evening's executive session to add an item to the executive session item for receipt of legal advice regarding the pending claim of Sumter concerned clergy versus Sumter School District.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved that, and second, that we add to the executive session receipt of legal advice regarding the pending claim of Sumter concerned clergy versus Sumter School District. Are there any questions? Please cast your vote. Show of hands, if you don't mind, please. Okay, the motion passes unanimously. So the agenda has been amended to include that for in executive session. Okay. We're now down to public participation, and this is our first meeting of the month, and so we tend to read the guidelines for public participation. The Board of Trustees, as a board, we are pleased to add time during our meeting, our regular board meeting each month for public participation, both in person and electronically. And according to our policy, the board will allocate 15 minutes at the beginning of each regular meeting for the public to address the board. The chairperson reserves the right to limit the discussion of the same topic issues in an effort to provide individuals the opportunity to be heard on a variety of topics. Public participation will not exceed 3 minutes, for each individual unless waived by a majority of the board. Consideration may be given to a public hearing for gaining input on critical issues. Speakers may offer objective comments on school operations and programs that concern them. The board will not permit in public session of any expression of personal complaints about individual school personnel or any other person connected with the school system. At this time, we will open the floor for public comments not to exceed 15 minutes or 3 minutes for each participant. Following in-person comments, our Executive Director of Communication and Community Engagement, Ms. Shelley Galloway, will read the electronic submission if there are any. Do we have anyone for public participation? Okay, thank you, Ms. Galloway. What about, okay, we don't have anyone here requesting public participation, nor do we have any electronic submission. So we will move on down to our, I just say that, because we don't have any, but if you did, we'd just like to thank you for any expressions that you might have at any time during our regular board meeting. We're now down to the announcements. Trustees, are there any announcements that you would like to share at this time?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Dr. Hilton.
I had the pleasure of attending a ceremony on Friday, I believe it was that Friday? Out at Calla Springs Elementary, the Braves bow tie ceremony. And it was a very nice event. It is a mentoring program for young men at Calla Springs, and it was a nice ceremony, and I would like to commend Ms. McBride and the staff at the Calla Springs on this excellent mentoring program they've got going on for their 4th and 5th grade young men at the Calla Springs. And I also visited Kingsbury, had a nice visit with Mr. Jackson, and also visited Sumter High and had a nice visit with Miss Sandor. And things were going well at Kingsbury and Sumter High as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hilton. And I'd just like to add, I also attended that program over at Ocala, And it was really, like he said, 4th and 5th grade boys, but the aim was, the theme was also boys rising and achieving vast expectations while soaring toward manhood. Very well attended, and I'd just like to say shout out to Mrs. McBride, and an excellent job also for the 4th and 5th grade staff. Any other announcements? Thank you, Dr. Hill. All right, we're now down to committee reports. Do we have any committee reports at this time?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Alston, I'm sorry.
tonight we're bringing forth some policies for second reading and also an addendum to a policy JCA, assignment of students to schools. But before we get to the addendum to JCA, if I could have Dr. McLeod come join us at the table, because there were some questions concerning policy IJL, Library Media Center material selection and reconsideration process.
Good evening.
Good evening, Doctor.
Thank you for joining us. There were some concerns regarding the removal of a line from policy IJL, Library Media Center, material selection and reconsideration process. I know that you went over this in the policy committee meeting, but could you go through the process of how you all got these amendments or the changes to this policy?
Certainly, our coordinator for English Language Arts assisted. She is the liaison between the State Department and Sumter for anything English arts related, and she assists with Library and Media Center contact and information that's provided. This is coming from the South Carolina Department of Education model to be in alignment with what they do when they are determining materials and the process if there is a concern of materials.
Yes, Dr. Hilton.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Dr. Hilton.
All right, so when I'm looking at this, this amendments to this policy, some of this stuff that's written in red has been added, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then some things are lined out.
Yes, sir.
And these recommendations are coming from the State Department, you say?
We follow the model that the State Department has in place.
Okay, well, down, do you have it in front of you now?
Yes, sir.
All right, so if you look at the first page and you scroll down to, excuse me, you come down to the second page. No, wait, let's stick on the bottom of the first page. All right, so it says material selection criteria. And then that paragraph, those two sentences there, the basic selection criteria is that appropriateness is used by the grade levels. In addition, the library media specialist will judge the materials using the following criteria, okay? But then when you scroll on down to the second page, in the middle of the page, there in red, it says material should be consistent with the district's general educational goals and the educational goals and objectives. And part of what is in the section above is in the section below. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So is that, I'm a little confused. It seems to be repetitious or redundant, and there's some, when you X out that one sentence about the basic criteria, but then you come down and you see in red, materials should be consistent with the district's goals, consideration should be given on the basis of the following, and then it looks like there's a whole list of criteria there. Is that the way you interpret it?
Yes, sir, you are correct.
All right,
That,
well, I would like to recommend or ask that we put this policy on this second reading on hold till we can go back and revisit this situation, because it could be a typo, you know what I'm saying?
that's what it is. That whole section
Yeah,
is actually being updated and adding the
Right.
2 additional criteria.
right.
So you're correct in that.
So, how does is the board amenable, if, Mr. Austin, are you being the chair, are you amenable to postponing second reading on this policy?
I only have one vote, but if the consensus of the board is for it to be postponed, then we can postpone this for second reading. But I also do have a concern as well, because I took a look at some neighboring districts' policy concerning this same policy, and the language that was removed of representative of many viewpoints is still in some neighboring districts' policies. And I don't know if they haven't updated theirs or where did that recommendation come from to remove that line item.
From the State Department's model
Okay.
is the change.
And if we're postponing this for second reading, can we get a copy of that State Department model as well? So that
Absolutely.
we can compare the two? Is there any other questions concerning IJL, the Library Media Center material selection? And there's also, maybe just for clarification with policy IHC, proficiency-based credit.
Yeah, I have a question about that, may I?
If I could
Oh, yeah,
get,
you had a question. All right. I bet your question will answer my question. Go ahead.
it's, the first paragraph reads that the board believes that the district should provide students with opportunities to obtain course credit based upon demonstration of mastery of standards and competencies at a proficient level while offering flexibility in seat time requirements. Exactly, I guess my question is exactly how will we test the demonstration of the mastery of standards and competency?
This policy was recommended from the State Department for our use of APEX for credit and content recovery, that there should be a policy associated with it. And that's currently what we do to help students recover content while they're with the teacher of record. And then if it's necessary and they have to go into credit recovery to complete the minimum requirements, that process is in place already. This is a compliance piece that has been requested.
And my last question, and Dr. Hills, and I promise this is my last question concerning this, how will this be impacted, well, how will this impact our military students that transfer in that have credit hours, and we're trying to see if they're comparable to serve, or has that been a discussion, how that will impact our military students?
As far as comparable course credits, we already have a process for doing that. If it's not something that is already a direct match in the South Carolina system, then we reach out and ask for additional information to be able to award those credits for South Carolina. We make every effort to try to be very cognizant of the military compact, and our goal is to help the students with successful transitions and not to be punitive. We also have military children that do take advantage of content and recovery as it currently is.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Hilton,
Yeah,
did you
may I
have a
follow up?
follow-up question?
Yeah, I found this policy interesting as well. So this is part of credit recovery, you say,
Yes, sir.
and so a kid didn't get credit in Algebra 1 because he was absent too many days or he didn't show up for the exam or whatever. All right, so he's signed up for credit recovery, and so this is saying, upon demonstration of mastery of standards and competencies at a proficient level while offering flexibility in seat time requirements. So if he's in course recovery and it's not a question of how many days he comes to course recovery, it's a question of can he pass the exam at the end, can he pass the final exam? Is that how this is going to
The
work?
coursework and the exams that are associated, that's correct.
In other words, he could be given several different exams or tests.
That's correct.
And who would determine which tests are administered? The teacher of that course?
If the student is still in, they're using content recovery,
Uh-huh.
that means that the teacher of record still is actively instructing those students.
Okay.
So then the teacher determines which parts of the content the student wasn't successful with so that they can assign the apex portion of that, and they complete that portion successful with the related assessments that go along with it to be able to matriculate throughout the rest of the actual
Apex
course.
is an online thing, right?
Yes,
All right, so then the teacher could say you got to watch 6 lessons about square roots or
Correct.
whatever, okay? And then we're going to give you an exam.
correct.
Or the teacher could say you don't have to watch any lessons, just come take the test. I think that's what it says. It says flexibility in seat time requirements. I mean, I'm not saying it's good or
Right.
bad. I'm just trying to understand what this says.
We do have procedural requirements attached to this
Uh-huh.
that we have been using quite a few years. So, but the seat time versus the student actually mastering the actual standards within the course, the mastery is the goal for proficiency-based.
And I understand there are kids who, like I said, were absent too many days, cut the exam, and he knows the stuff, but he messed up. And so this says offering flexibility and seat time requirements. I'm just trying to get a handle on how flexible is flexible.
Right.
But it's up to the teacher really, or we have some standards that
Within
say-
within the actual
And
classroom
I'm not trying to
content.
I'm not trying to grill you.
No, I understand.
I'm just trying to get a handle on what this means.
The teacher will normally assign the portions for content recovery so that the student is working specifically with that content he or she still has not mastered.
Okay.
So in most cases, they're going to have practices where they can watch them to make sure that they are actually gaining an understanding, and they can support also within the classroom and at other times. And then the assessment help us guide also, is the student actually getting it? Because a lot of times with content recovery, it is the example you gave, where the students may not have been taking it as seriously, or, they had other events going on.
Right.
Things weren't turned in timely, or they weren't prepared for a unit test. And this is a way that we can help them catch up without it stopping all the instruction that's going
And
on.
it's a great idea, I like it. But again, I'm just trying to get a handle on, if the kid hadn't mastered the material, then he needs to sit there and go through the APEX lesson.
Yes,
But if the teacher thinks the kid has mastered the materials, then can he just take the exam and pass it and go on about his business and get credit for the course without having to watch the lessons again? That's the question. And we don't have to have an answer tonight. Maybe we can find out later. I don't know.
okay. I can provide the guidance that we use for content and credit recovery as far as what student minimums are, how the courses are set up to be able to, for the student to be able to work within the content that they haven't demonstrated the mastery yet. That's the problem. They haven't demonstrated it.
Well, I understand, but I'm just saying if a kid has demonstrated it, how flexible is flexible? And I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much.
Is there any other questions concerning policy IHC? If not, thank you, Dr. McLeod, for being with us this evening. And at this time, can we move on to policy JCA, the addendum to assignment of students to schools? And I'm sure if Ms. Perkins or Mr. Myers will be doing that presentation to us.
Ms. Addison is going to join me this evening.
I'm sorry, Ms. Addison.
That's okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
Some time ago, the board had requested information in reference to a guarantee about teachers or employees being able to find places at the various schools where their students can attend, regardless of whether they're in that zone or not. I've asked Ms. Addison to come and share some of that information based off the policy that's there and give us an update on that information.
What's that, I'm sorry, what, do we have this in front of us?
Yes, sir.
What is the policy number?
It's policy JCA. In your board docs, it's loaded as copy of district presentation template. And this is concerning the addendum that the policy committee brought forth, the recommendation that the policy committee brought forth to create a standalone process for district employees for out-of-zone and for open enrollment requests for district employees, to open up that process earlier to our employees as a perk.
Thank you.
If you have a copy of the PowerPoint on your screen, we'll go ahead and proceed. Currently, policy JCA for the employee transfer zoning portion of the policy, it does state that if a full-time employee resides in a zone and works in another, it is permissible with the approval of the superintendent and/or his designee for that employee's child to attend a school in the zone of his or her choice, space permitting their space. And so currently, as of last year, during our open enrollment out-of-zone process, on the next slide, you'll see that as of October 7th, for open enrollment, we had a total of 547 applications. 91 applications were from employees, and all were approved. For the out-of-zone applications, and that's based on a demonstrated hardship, a total of 280 applications were submitted. 37 of those were for employees, and all of those were approved. So all of the employee applications that we did receive last year were approved for open enrollment as well as out of zone. On our district website, and that is the next slide, you'll see on the attendance page, currently for transfer in district options, we have 2 options. The 2 options that are currently there is open enrollment, which is just for a specified amount of time, usually just a month, that normally occurs in April. Out-of-zone request, that is the second in-district option. That is open for the entire school year, but it is based on a hardship. The proposal there is the 3rd slide, which is the employee transfer form. So instead of our employees applying for open enrollment or applying for out-of-zone, they wouldn't fill out either of those 2 applications. They will just fill out the employee transfer form. That form still has the same requirements. If they live out of district, they will have to upload their release from their current district as a part of the application. And so this is just a suggestion to take them out of the 2 applications that we currently have. Yes, sir.
We don't have those, we don't have that in here. We can't see that.
Okay.
It didn't open.
You have to click on the hyperlink for the proposed employee transfer form, and it'll open.
I'm trying, but it's not doing anything. It's saying rowboat and some other stuff.
If If you hold control and click on it, it should open up.
So, click.
Oh, that's the same.
Still not working for me.
And Ms. Addison, the only thing I have a question, well, a suggestion maybe for the form, the proposed form, is maybe if we can have space on there for multiple children so they don't have to go back through for each one of their children. That was my only concern with the form, but otherwise, the form does look good. If we could just add maybe 2 other lines or so, so an employee doesn't have to do multiple forms for multiple children.
Those did not open, so, on yours open, Beth? Mine didn't, Frank didn't. Okay.
A copy of the form is on the
It's on the big
screen now for your review.
Oh, here's a copy on the screen if you can see
It's
it.
entitled Employee-Child Transfer Request, is that what it is?
Yes.
And so, if I may, Madam Chair.
Yes.
So what you're saying is, we got open enrollment, we got out of zone, and then we're gonna have a third form for employees only.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Baker?
Thank you, Ms. Addison. When you did your first frame, you said with the approval of the superintendent or his designee, but that part or his designee is not in there. So you might want to go back and put that in there.
Do you mean on the form?
Well, no, policy JCA, employee zoning transfer. If a full-time employee resides in a zone and works in another, it is permissible with the approval of the superintendent for his or her child to attend the schools in the zone of his or her choice, space permitting. But when you presented it, you said the superintendent or his designee. And what I'm saying is we probably need to add that or his designee.
It's in the actual policy. I think it was just omitted out of this presentation, but it's in the actual policy.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Dr. Hill?
now no disrespect to Dr. Wright here, but there was some discussion about changing this policy to saying if a full-time employee resides, it is permissible for his or her child to attend a school of his or her zone or choice, period. And take out the phrase with the approval of the superintendent. There was some discussion about making it automatic, so to speak, or as a guarantee, if you will. Where are we with that?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
The policy was recommended to the policy committee. The policy committee members met, which included Dr. Lee, Dr. McGaney, and Mrs. Ray and myself, as well as our superintendent, Dr. Wright. We had the discussion about the guarantee. We heard from the superintendent that evening concerning the desire for the language to remain the same. And we reached a compromise in the policy committee, if you will, that we would create a standalone process. And this is the process that we're bringing forth for this proposal tonight, and that we would leave the policy intact as it currently is, but we would just create a standalone process for employees that would open up this process to them earlier than the general public.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Dr. Hill?
no disrespect, but the process is still the same, it's just the form has changed. Process is, they fill out a form, and the superintendent either grants it or doesn't. So the process is still the same.
Well, the process,
We've created a third form for employees to fill out instead of filling out the same form as everybody else.
the process changes slightly as it opens this process up to district employees before the general public. So therefore, district employees would have their first choice before the public, so that those when it says space permitting, district employees would get those first spaces, if you will, as spaces permitted at those schools.
Where does it say that this is, I'm sorry,
I think Ms. Ray's on the committee.
where does it say that the employees get it before everybody else? Where does it say that?
The policy is not changing, the process of how we're doing this is changing. The policy will remain the same.
Where
If
does
we
it
make
say
a
in the
policy
process?
change,
Where is it in writing? that
Just
says
a
that?
moment.
it will
Just-
be in procedures with operations with the superintendent and the coordinator of attendance. It's not a board function to change the process. The board function is to change the policy, and the policy committee agreed not to change the policy, but to change the process.
Okay, I saw Mrs. Ray's hand, and she is also on that committee. Mrs. Ray, would you please add on?
I just wanted to say, we did have quite a discussion on trying to guarantee employees' children a place wherever the employee wanted them to go. And so that was why we said that they should have first choice. So they would have the opportunity to do their request before the public did, and that should guarantee them a space, because that's what we're trying to do, is give them the opportunity to place their children where they needed to be. And then, as Mr. Alston said, would be the procedure, that they would turn in their form and they would get first choice. So just to clarify.
And two, I didn't see wherein we had a problem really last year, because every applicant in and out got placed and got their wish attended to. So I don't see where we really have a problem of denying anyone. So, if we do have to vote on it, and it would mean that we just vote our conviction when that time comes. And I understand, it was asked that a guarantee, but I think that this somewhat assures them to have what they're asking for in the process that's put in place here. So it will come before us to vote. So I'd say, the thing of it is, what reading is this on this one?
This will be first reading.
This is the first reading. So we can, I think that they've already talked about it. So if you want them to look at that again, we can request that.
May I ask one more question, quickly?
Yes, sir.
So in the administrative procedures regarding open enrollment and out of zone and employees, there will be an administrative procedure in writing that will say employees, that will set a date for open enrollment as, March 1st, and employees will be February 1st, or something of that nature. That's my question. And written in administrative procedure.
Okay. So our understanding of the process is that, again, we have three options. Open enrollment is just for a month. Normally it's April 1st through April 30th. Out of zone is continuous, so it's open throughout the course of the school year. The employee transfer form will essentially be the same. It will be open throughout the school year. Say, for instance, if we just open it for February, if someone comes to our district and if they are hired in September and they live in Columbia, but they want their children to attend the school, then they still will have that right. So it's just an option for employees that's continuous. It's a third transfer option.
That's even better. Thank you so much.
Yes.
The continuous option. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hilton. Yes, Mrs. Ray?
Just clarify that for me, though. That was for out of zone, but open enrollment would be different. You said open enrollment is just for a month, right?
Yes. So
So when would employees, if they wanted their child to go somewhere and they're already here, they're employed, when do they put in this application?
Well, she says continuous. You mean
No,
you can put it in-
that's out of zone. That's
Yes.
different.
So the understanding, our understanding of this process is currently open enrollment is for non-district employees, and it's just for a specific amount of time. Out of zone is a continuous process, and it's based on a hardship. An employee transfer form is also continuous. because as it reads, it's almost like employee students will be treated as if they're zoned for any school in the district. And so it's not an assumption to the public that employee students are taking away spaces for open enrollment from their children. Employee children are kind of viewed as zoned for any school in the district because of their employment here. So it's a continuous process. It's not taking the place of a specific number of seats is our understanding of it.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify. So they would not be told that the school is full?
For employees.
Right, for
Yes.
employees. Okay, and that's what we were wanting to happen. Okay.
Well, it
Yes,
says
Dr.
right
Dillon.
here, with the approval of the superintendent, space permitting, right here in black and white. Space permitting means if the school's full, there ain't any, excuse my use of the word, means there isn't any space. So you see, we got some confusion here. Continuous is great. Take out space permitting, and we're really good to go.
I don't think there's going to be any difficulties in making that happen. By the time we get to the next reading, we will have made the adjustments that are necessary. And we'll be right back again discussing it so that we can make sure it's clear and the way that we need for it to go.
Okay, thank you.
And Madam Chair, if I may, to close out this discussion, I think with this policy, we need to, and it was brought from the committee this way, to leave in the word of space permitting, because just because we have not seen it being an issue thus far, it could present itself as an issue moving forward, and we would have to be back here having the same conversation about adding the word back of space permitting. So it's as basically a safety net for us as a district, and it leaves it in the operations of the superintendent to make that determination whether or not space is permitted at those schools of choice by district employees. But this process does open it up so that district employees have first choice at the schools that they want their children to attend to. And if there's no more conversation on this topic, I would like to thank Ms. Addison and Mr. Myers, as well as Ms. Perkins, for being here. Thank you all for your time and your presentation. And Madam Chair, that concludes the Policy Committee report for this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Alston. Do we have any other committee reports?
Madam Chair, we don't have a committee report tonight. However, we just want to inform the board that we're planning to meet as a facilities committee on October the 18th, which is Tuesday, at the district office at 6:00 p.m. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Reagan. Okay, any other committee reports? Okay, hearing none, we'll now move down to the legislative update. Dr. Hilton
No
is
report
there.
this evening, as the legislature is still in recess.
All righty. Thank you, Dr. Hilton.
Thank you.
All right, we're now down to our superintendent's report. Dr. Wright, please proceed with the items listed under Around the District. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Board of Trustees. First of all, I would like for you to join me and my staff in sharing your thoughts and prayers for the family of Dr. John Coomis, who is our Human Resources Executive Director. He lost his father over the weekend, and so please keep that family in your thoughts and prayers. This month is National Principals Month. I'd like to thank our world-class educators, some of whom are here tonight. Not all of them, but some of them are here tonight. And those principals lead our schools every day. As our principals, they shape the lives of our students and staff by providing opportunities for growth and success. During the month of October, we are also celebrating our building services team, coaches, teachers, and physical therapists. We are forever grateful for their impact, leadership, hard work, and dedication to continuing to make us Sumter School District proud. Relay for Life Challenge. I want you all to join me for Relay for Life on Friday, April 21st, 2023. As a cancer survivor myself, I've been fortunate to have the support of my family and friends. I'm now asking for the support of all of our schools, district office, and annex to join me in this effort. At Relay for Life, I'm going to start walking at 6 p.m., and I will not stop until a representative from each team has joined me on the track. So don't have me out there all night by myself. Don't let me down. I look forward to seeing all of our teams on Friday, April 21st, 2023, from 5 to 10 p.m., and together we can hit it out of the park for a cure. The Chamber Career Forum, 42 students from Sumter Career and Technology Center had the opportunity to participate in the Student Career Forum. The Sumter Chamber of Commerce Education Committee, in partnership with the Sumter School District, developed the forum for middle and high school students to help ensure students are aware of career opportunities in their local community and to provide a forum to discuss 9 keys for success. Thank you to our Chamber of Commerce for partnering with the Sumter School District to provide meaningful opportunities for our students. And lastly, for the report for tonight, all employees are invited to attend the Community Broadcasters Annual Education Appreciation Night, which will be held on Thursday, October 20th from 5 to 8 p.m. at the South Hope Center, which is located on 1125 Lafayette Boulevard in Sumter. This event features food, door prizes, and fun. All campus teachers of the year will be recognized around 6 p.m. And that's all I have for the Around the District at this time, Madam Chair, members of the Board of Trustees.
Thank you. You may proceed.
At this time, we want to recognize some wonderful people for the Relay for Life recognition.
Good evening, Dr. Wright, Superintendent, Dr. Jackson, Board, and community members. I'd like to thank you for allowing us to be here tonight to represent Sumter County and all the work that y'all do to support us. Last year, our fundraising goal was $65,000, and once again, Sumter surpassed that at $68,434.86. We have always surpassed our goal in Sumter County. However, the district by itself raised $52,648.35, which means y'all raised 77% of our money. It's coming from this district now, which is excellent and wonderful. And now that we have Dr. Wright on board, it's only going to get better. Tonight, we're here to recognize and honor the top 5 teams in Sumter County. And the district has 4 of those top teams in the top 5. So and those teams together by themselves raised $28,000. So those 4 teams raised $28,000 alone. So number 5 with $3,391.30 is Alice Drive Elementary.
On behalf of the American Cancer Society, I want to thank you for your participation and being our top team. And it's
Number 3 with $5,516.02 is Oakland Primary School.
thank you for your participation, Mr. Board.
Number 2 with $7,971.42 is Willow Drive Elementary.
Hey, thank you so much for your participation and all the hard work. You want to get a picture? Our thanks to Ruby Head ever so slightly.
And then number 1 for like the 10th year in a row with $11,306.79 is Crestwood High School. Crestwood bought the entire school today. Now, the 2022-23 year kicks off on Tuesday, April 18th at the Sumter Career and Technology Center, 6 p.m. We invite y'all to join us as Dr. Wright tells his cancer story. He's going to open up the year for us of his story of how he survived and what he went through. As he stated earlier, this year's theme is Hitting Out the Park for a Cure. The relay event will take place Friday, April the 21st, between 5 and 10:30. This year, our goal is $75,000. And once again, we thank the Sumter School District for their support, and we hope to see everyone at Relay 23 hitting out the park for a cure.
Thank you.
We would really like to thank you for your efforts, and we do appreciate everyone that got involved in this Relay for Life. We can't say enough of how important the fight is for many of us. I think that everyone can identify that cancer has affected or touched them in some kind of way in their lives, and it's very worthy and deserving. And let's give Sean a round of applause for his dedication and hard work every year. Thank you, Sean. We do appreciate you for your hard work in making sure that it happens. And it happens big time every year. Our giving keeps going up. And we are not overlooking you, but Sean has always been there at the forefront. So thank you so much, and thank both of you for your dedication to the cause. All right. Dr. Wright?
Madam Chair, members of the Board of Trustees, at this time I will ask our wonderful Chief Finance Officer, Ms. Shatika Spearman, to come forth, and she will assist us in making presentations on 5.3, 5.4, and 5.5 at this time.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Madam Chair, Vice Chair, our clerk, and board members. I'm here to present three reports to you today. The first is our fiscal year 22 revenue and expenditure status. The auditors have begun their remote work for this fiscal year, so we are working with them and giving them the documents that they need. In summary, to date for fiscal year 22, we've collected $115,697,179 in revenue, up against $120,738,818 in expenditure. Our beginning fund balance at the end of last year, which is the beginning balance of that fiscal year, was $32,626,731, and we estimate at this point ending balance for fiscal year '22 of $30,566,329. That is for fiscal year 2022. As it relates to fiscal year '23, we have collected approximately 8% of our estimated revenue. Some points of revenue we would like to talk about is the interest on investments. We've exceeded the estimate for that to the tune of $89,000, and that is related to interest earned on our investments. For our LGIP, Local Government Investment Pool. Also, we've collected more than we expected on the Transportation Workers' Comp, the state's estimate, to the tune of $71,937. And the new funding for our classroom funding, we've collected approximately $11,296,000. And the current report from SCDE has a new projection of $79,724,323 for us to collect for this year. Of course, that's based on our enrollment. And throughout the year, that number will change. So to date, again, we've collected 8.82% of our collection. And we are now at a 25% of the year has gone by. As it relates to our expenditures for FY23, we have spent to the tune of, let's see here, $20,164,098 in expenditures. Some points of expenditure on our 311 instructional services, we've overexpended to the tune of $1.4 million, and again, that is related to our iTutor contract that we have, and it should be a wash because of the salary line. We'll see a decrease on that related to that, so we'll see that as time goes on. And our 651, we had expenditure for workers' comp claim settlement of $100 that was not expected or budgeted. And so to date, we've spent approximately 13.75% of our expenditure budget at 25% of the fiscal year is gone. Our ending fund balance for FY23 at this point, we estimate $29,750,214 in a remaining fund balance at this point in the year. As it relates to our Esser, this is .5.
Could I ask a question
I'm sorry?
before we proceed?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Ms. Spearman, there has been, I think I ask you this almost every time you give a financial report. Is there a date that you can give us when our employees will receive their retention stipend?
Oh, yes. We have tried to make sure that we've been clear to the employees. We've obviously had questions. Our goal is to wait until after the date of declaration, which is October 14th. The memo says that you have to show that you are full-time or part-time status as of October 14th. Me and my team have already met on how we will work that out. We met on Friday. And our goal is to determine eligibility on the day after that or the next work day after that. And we want to have the retention bonus distributed no later than the next or the following pay period, which would be October 31st. We want to give ourselves time to develop and make sure the eligibility has been determined, and any questions that we have, we are making sure that that goes to our leadership. to see if there are any questions that have to be ironed out. And so we're already meeting, and we're getting ready to be prepared for that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. As it relates to Esser update, Esser 5.4. This is Esser as of September 30th, 2022. We are happy to report that we have utilized every cent of Esser 1 by the deadline. All funds for Esser 1 had to be used by September 30th, and we left nothing on the table. And so we wanted to confirm that with the board, that we spent $5,582,590 of Esser funding for Esser 1. As it relates to Esser, were there any questions about Esser 1? Okay, Esser 2. Esser 2, we have an allocation of $23,562,630. And to date, we've spent $19,347,222. We have approximately $2.4 million encumbered, and so our remaining balance unencumbered is $1.79 million. So we are on track to have that spent by next September 30th. So we're ahead of the game with that. And I've identified on the slide some of the things that we've spent items on and some detail. So if there is any questions regarding Esser 2, we can take those questions too. Yes, sir.
So, modifier 15 other, give me some examples of some others.
Okay. Well, we did hire, not hire, we did a contract service with a vendor to get a dedicated accountant for Esser, and so we still have that person in that area. We have, I'm going to pull the plan here. I bought the plan.
So
I'm sorry.
you hired a separate accountant
A contract service, yes.
to keep up with the Esser money.
Yes, and they're assisting us with that, definitely with the after-school program that we're rolling out. They'll take the, timesheets and make sure they're all in compliance with the Esser rules and report back and forth with the Department of Education, and assist us with the claims on that as well.
Could we get some information at some point as to how much we pay in this account?
Oh, sure.
We don't need it right
Sure.
this minute, but.
I don't have it with me today, but I can get that. Yes, you can. And there's some other items in the other. Let me just write this down. This is Esser 2.
And we don't have to have these tonight, maybe, but we spent almost $5 million in other 48, it says, right?
Oh, and
46, excuse me.
oh, yes, and 50, yes,
4,006,000.
yes. And when you see other for Esser, that also includes the indirect costs that we can charge to other things to monitor, to have the grant housed here at the district. So we have that. We have items such as let's see here, Esser. Here we have some virtual academy program licenses that we have. We have, we used it also, because most of that grant is utilized, we used it for lost textbooks that were lost, and we replaced those. So we have that going on in there. We used it also for outdoor food distribution during the years, the early years of the grant. For virtual support for students when they were out for COVID. So it was those type of expenditures that kind of didn't fit the bill on the other categories, but we got approval to use for those things that we needed. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Dr. McCain?
Could you clarify, see, we had 611,000 for mental health services. How are we and where are we with the mental health services? Are we in good shape with them, or are we still in need of anymore, or where are we?
We currently have been able to sustain the social worker and the school psychologist. In our current plan, we have just put an amendment to the state to add 2 additional mental health counselors, and so that amendment is what we just submitted to the state.
And it was just approved.
Great, I'm glad to hear that.
And we do have the community support for those 2 positions. We have a lot of agencies who reached out to us.
Thank you, that's what I wanted to see. I talked with Dr. Wright about that earlier, so I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, sir.
As we move on to Esser 3. Esser 3, this is the big one. We were allocated $52,956,305, of which to date, we've spent $977,000 of that, but we have encumbered 8.5. Most of that is for our HVAC systems that we are updating for the schools. So we have a remaining balance to spend before September 30th, 2024 of $43,465,059. As you can tell on this slide at the bottom, I had to indicate the plan, some details on the plan for each category because we didn't have as many expenses with this as of yet. Also coming out of Esser 3, a lot of that is the after-school tutoring that we will start as well. So I tried to give some detail on the slide if there are any questions regarding Esser 3.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Yes.
yes, sir.
So the 400 out of line 10 and 11, summer learning and learning loss,
Yes,
the 495,000 we spent, that was spent for paying teachers this past summer.
correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And so we're planning to implement some more learning loss opportunities this school year.
Yes, in the form of after-school tutoring.
Okay. Let me throw this question out there. After-school tutoring is great. What about, could we not use some of this learning loss money to hire, and I know we're having trouble hiring everybody and anybody, but sometimes when students are behind, they do better when they're in a small group setting. Does this money qualify to hire parapros to work with small groups of students in the classroom? Teacher's got 20 kids. We put a parapro in there, and for some portion of the day or the morning, that parapro pulls 4 kids back and works on their reading with them for a little while. And then, that kind of thing. Is this money allowed to be spent on that because this is trying to make up for learning loss?
Well, during our after-school tutoring, the budget for that line item alone does include a parapro. It includes up to 5 teachers per school, a parapro, and then an assistant principal. And so that's included in that, but as far as utilizing one through during the day,
Yes,
I'm not,
talking about after school.
yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm talking about during the school day.
Yes,
Can we put some more people in the classroom during the school day?
yes, we can look
Using
into that.
Using Esser money
Mhm.
to help our children that need help. That's my question, and I don't expect an answer yes or no, but that might be something to look into,
Okay.
to see if it's possible, permissible, to use this money for that purpose.
Madam Chair, I have a question as well.
Yes, Ms. Voss.
And I'm not sure if this question is for Ms. Spearman or Dr. McLeod, but with the after-school tutoring opportunities, I know there was some concern that it would only be limited to certain schools. Is that certain schools still, or is that across the district that we will see those after-school programs from?
No, we received some heat on, on that, but that was how the original plan was written for 12 schools. But we massaged the budget and looked within it without having to make too many amendments. All 27 schools have access to after-school tutoring.
And I just heard you say about the positions that were, I guess, allocated per school.
Yes.
And that's for all 27 schools, that they are have an allocation to cover.
Yes, all
That's that.
27.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And thank you all for that work on that.
Thank you.
If I may. And that then would include bus transportation home after the tutoring?
Yes, that includes
They're
all of
staying
that.
after school, and then we're going to get them back home later on a bus.
Well, I mean, we have budget for it, so
I mean,
if that's actually what's
that's what I'm
happening.
asking. I know we got a
Mhm.
bus
Yes.
issue,
Mhm.
but it's in the budget.
Yes.
All right, so here's another thought I'm going to just throw out there. And this might not be very popular, but is it also permissible to use ESSER funds for virtual after-school tutoring? That Johnny goes home and he could get some after-school tutoring on his Chromebook while he's at home at, 4 o'clock in that afternoon, or 5 o'clock, or whatever. Just a question. Is that permissible to use ESSER funds for virtual after-school tutoring?
We'll look into that.
And also, Dr. Hilton, we'll also reiterate with our schools, the state has provided some opportunities for all students across the state for virtual tutoring, and it is free to our students. So we'll make sure that goes back out again, so they're aware of that.
So we're
And so the
making
state has
people
offered,
aware
yes, we'll
of
make
these
sure they,
opportunities.
yes.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I have one additional question. I know that we see a chunk of ESSER 3 going to our HVAC needs.
Yes.
How does this work with using this funding with the train project that we're currently doing? And I know at times when we pass our 8% bond, we include HVAC as well. So is this supplemental to the work that train is doing and what we've approved in our 8% bond, or is this in addition to?
That is correct. It is, that's primarily with train.
Okay.
And so this is in addition to. So thankfully, this extra money will help a whole lot.
Okay.
So yes. And by the way, as it relates to capital projects and what have you, which we'll talk to, I'll have to get to that. We just received our proceeds for the fall. So we'll be talking with Dr. Wright on how we want to utilize that for y'all's approval.
Thank you.
All right, there's no more ESSER questions. The final report is our capital projects. I just wanted to present to you, there has been work being done for those items listed. So I just wanted to present the report before you, but we're still, receiving quotes, scheduling work, and paying the bills. So work is being done with our capital projects funding. Are there any questions regarding the capital projects? If not, this concludes my reporting for this board meeting.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
Thank both of you very much.
Madam Chair, I also failed to mention Ms. Veron Davis, who assisted in that presentation, so thank you to both of them for that presentation. Madam Chair, we're ready for 5.6 now.
Yes.
This time I'll ask our Executive Director of Communications and Community Engagement, Ms. Shelley Galloway, to come forward, talk about wellness days for the 2022-2023 calendar year.
Good evening, Chairwoman Dr. Jackson, Vice Chairman Dr. Baker, Clerk Dr. McGaney, Board of the Trustees, and Superintendent Dr. Wright. This evening, I am presenting for your approval an amendment of the Sumter School District calendar to incorporate four wellness half-days for our students and our staff on December 16th, January 27th, February 10th, and March 10th. Our Superintendent, Dr. William Wright, recognizes that the mental health of our students and our staff is our top priority, and these wellness days are a reflection of our commitment to supporting the needs of our Sumter School District family based on the feedback we have received from our employees again this year. I do acknowledge that I did send out this information to the public prematurely, but we are asking for your approval this evening under action required. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Dr.
Not
Baker?
so much a question, Shelley, but I know we're approaching the season where we start working on the calendar. It's usually about before the board of December. Could we ask the committee to please take a look in at the modified year-round schedule? A lot of our neighboring districts are doing that, and it seems like the employees and the parents really like it. So when y'all get into that deliberation point of the committee is meeting, and I assume Dr. Wright will use the committee, I don't know, if y'all would kind of take a look at some of our neighboring districts that are using it.
Yes, sir. The calendar committee is meeting in October, and we are going to look at both versions, the modified calendar and traditional calendar. So yes, sir.
If I may add, there's already been work and discussions about that, and we're gathering information in terms of who is and is not doing it, and trying to get some background on how successful it is. We know that the caveats that are very good about it is that it will allow us to end first semester for our high schools prior to the Christmas break and have exams, so that's always important. To make sure that we keep learning where it needs to be, as well as some other things that we see as advantages. But we're in the process of doing the research ahead of the meetings that are forthcoming, and we expect to be bringing something back to the board by the December deadline.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that concludes the superintendent's report at this time for tonight's meeting.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wright, as well as all of you that provided information to the board during the superintendent's report. We do appreciate each one of you, and we do thank you. We're now down to the executive session, and per our agenda, the board will enter into executive session. As a reminder, there is no set time frame for this portion of the meeting. We invite our in-person guests as well as our online viewers to join us again when we return to open session. If you're unable to be with us at that time, we wish you a safe and pleasant week. Thank you so much, and we do appreciate you. Do we have a, trustees, is there a motion to enter into executive session?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we enter into executive session for discussion of individual student matters, transfers in and out of district, diploma petition, the monthly personnel report, discussion of compensation, employment, release, and transfer of certified and classified employees, as well as receipt of legal advice regarding the pending claim of Sumter concerned clergy versus Sumter School District.
Second.
Okay, there is a motion and a second to enter into executive session for the discussion of individual student matters, transfers in and out of district, diploma petition, and monthly personnel report, appointment, compensation, promotion, demotion, discipline, termination, transfer, and or release of an employee, promotion, demotion, discipline, termination, or release of an employee, as well as receipt of legal advice regarding the petition claim of Sumter concerned clergy versus Sumter School District. Is there any discussion? Please cast your vote by show of hand, Shante? Oh, you have it? Okay. Okay, the motion passes unanimously, and we're now into executive session. Thank each one of you. Dr. Wright, do you have any recommendation for individual student matters transfers in, out of the district and diploma petitions?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair, members of the Board of Trustees. At this time, I'd like to recommend the presented student transfers in and out of district and diploma requests presented.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the superintendent's request to approve these student requests.
Okay. There is a motion and a second that we accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve all individual student matters transfers in and out of the district and diploma petition. Is there any discussion? Cast your vote, please. Is mine not coming up?
Unanimous.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously. All right, we're now down to the personnel report. Dr. Wright, do you have a recommendation for the personnel report?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the Board of Trustees, I am recommending approval of the monthly personnel report as presented.
Is there a motion and a second?
Yes, Madam Chair, I motion that the board approve or accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the personnel report for September 2022.
Second.
A motion has been made and second to accept the superintendent's recommendation for board approval of the October 10th personnel report. Is there any discussion? Please cast your vote. The motion passes unanimously. Okay, 8.3, board approval to add an addendum to policy JCA. Trustees, is there a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the board approve the first reading of policy JCA addendum, assignment of students to schools.
Second.
Okay, there is a motion and a second that the boards approve accepts the first reading of JCA addendum to the policy JCA. Is there any discussion? Please cast your vote. The motion passes unanimously. 8.4, board approval to adopt policies. Trustees, is there a motion to accept the superintendent's request to adopt policies IHC, IHCA, and IMDA?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the board approve second reading of the adoptions of policies IHC, proficiency-based credit courses, IHCA, display of mottos, flags, and presentations by patriotic societies, and IMDA, patriotic exercises.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second that the superintendent's request to adopt policies IHC, IHCA, and IMD. Is there any discussion? If not, please cast your vote. The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Alston, do you have a subsequent motion there as well?
Yes, ma'am. I would ask that the board postpone second reading of policy IJL, library/media center material selection and reconsideration process.
Second.
There is a motion and a second that the board postpones the policy IJL until it goes back to committee for review. Is there any discussion? If not, please cast your vote. The motion passes unanimously. We're now down to 8.5, board approval of the amend the FY 22-23 calendar to incorporate wellness days. Trustees, is there a motion to accept the superintendent's request to amend the FY 22-23 calendar to incorporate wellness days?
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation to amend SY 22-23 calendar to incorporate wellness days.
Second.
There is a motion and a second that the board approves the superintendent's request to amend the SY 22-23 calendar to incorporate wellness days. Is there any discussion? If not, please cast your vote. The motion unanimously passes. Are there any, at this time, we need to approve the consent agenda. Are there any objections to the approval of the consent agenda? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. Ladies and gentlemen, we would definitely like to thank you for your participation. And thank the viewers for being in person as well as virtually. And we ask that you remain healthy and safe and have a wonderful weekend. If there are no further business, this meeting is officially adjourned at this time, and the time is 8:30 p.m. Thank you, one and all. Early night.
Thank you.